Welcome to the Hoopstrology podcast brought to you by the Bayou Citian. My name is Jesus Acevedo Jr. and I'm one of your hosts. And I'm joined, like I am every week in and week out, well, whenever we don't have to reschedule, that is, by the one and only sports astrologer in the world that I've been able to find. If there's another sports astrologer, we would like to have him on Hoopstrology. So you get with us, sports astrologer number 2, because the number one sports astrologer in our hearts is the Zodiac GM. What's going on, Zodiac?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, man? Crazy weekend.
Crazy weekend. We were talking about it before we hit record, and I told you, hold up. We got to hit record. We got to let this out. It was one of the most unusual weekends in terms of game sevens in the NBA playoffs and NBA history, right? The first time 2 road teams win game 7 on the same day. I don't think nobody saw that happen, right? I'm sure somebody bet it, right? Just to bet. But I don't think they even knew that would happen. It was just sort of like you just make the bet just to make it. Because I did not expect – I expected one of the home teams to win. You know, yes. I expected Denver to beat the Wolves, and that didn't happen. But I that's the one toss-up that I had. If there was one, it was a toss-up with that. But Knicks, I thought, would get the Pacers too, but – yeah, it was just crazy. So, like, what are your overall thoughts of, what you experienced, what you saw this weekend?
I am surprised more with the Nuggets and Wolves game. You got to give it up to the T-Wolves. I mean, they did what they had to do to go in there, scary environment up in Denver, and just hand it to them. I mean, they took it. They literally took it and won Game 7. The one with the Indiana versus the Knicks, I mean, the way I looked at it, it wasn't Knicks had a lot of injuries. I mean, even though Hart did play and Anunoby did play for a few minutes here and there, it's just I just felt like they were just outnumbered in healthy players. They just so I kind of anticipated, okay, Indiana's a lot more healthier. They do have the talent, so they have a better shot of beating the Knicks, even though the Knicks have a stronger synergy as a whole. But it's been a fun playoff. So I'm excited of what's coming up with the Final Four.
I'm excited because we're not going to have another repeat champion, which I think it'll be the 6th year in a row we don't have a repeat champion, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that bodes well for the NBA because that shows that the league is extremely talented, both at the player level and the coaching level. We've had new coaches reach this plateau. Chris Finch among them. Joe Musula with the Boston Celtics. Continuing, but just Rick Carlisle with the Pacers, just showing the kind of coach that he is. He left Dallas, a strong Dallas with Luka, right? I mean, mind you, at the time they're not the Dallas they are now, but still you had Luka. But he wanted to go to Indiana and. Just goes to show you, of course, Jason Kidd, but how healthy this NBA is, and that I prefer this where there's more parity. When you have your like dynasties, man, sometimes that can be okay, I guess, but it's also like you want to have good games, good competitive game upsets. Fans love upsets. Even the media loves upsets because we like to write about the stories that led to this upset and how it happened, and so that's why I think this is healthy for the NBA to have this. I think it's a 6th year in a row or 5th in a row where the defending champion doesn't make it past the second round. That's also to me healthy because to me it's good because it means that, hey, you have to earn this title, and if you think about it, to the teams that do repeat, and I'm not, I mean, I guess, some of the Warriors teams, right? Because they had Kevin Durant, but that wasn't even fair. But that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, I think this is healthy for the league when there's more parity. How do you feel about that, Zodiac?
Oh yeah, it definitely is, and it makes it interesting each and every year. There's, I mean, you look at the way OKC, they put up a really good fight as well, and then the way the Wolves came out this year out of nowhere, just sort of dominant, I like that. And it's good for the NBA to have that competitiveness. It's not as easy. So I definitely like that idea, and I like the way everything is going to plan right now.
Yeah, so been a great NBA playoffs, and we're going to get right into with the first topic, which is the Wolves and the Denver Nuggets. Now, this was the upset of the two, right? Like you said, the Knicks were hurt, so the Pacers had the better opportunity. I gave the Wolves an opportunity just because, and I've said in a couple episodes ago, I thought the T-Wolves would be the Denver Nuggets' biggest, toughest opponent, and I had them going 7. I did have Denver winning. I did have them putting it out close game, but look, the T-Wolves with that defense. And one thing you know about me, so that I love defense. I love playing defense. I love it. So when I see these T-Wolves, they got after the Nuggets in the second half. They got after. I'm sure Chris Finch got into him at halftime. Chris Finch, Scorpio, which is something I've never forgot that you told me that he builds a
culture.
Culture. And something Anthony Edwards said, when he was talking about Chris Finch in the postgame, he said it starts from the head of our snake, and that's Chris Finch. He will get on us, and he'll get on Cat, he'll get on me. He's not afraid. He don't care who you are, what the name of the black jersey is. This is team defense, and he's still with us that hard play. And when you have your star buying in like that, Zodiac, to play defense, and he was talking after the game, he was saying, I had Jamal Murray in handcuffs.
Oh,
that's
good.
The second half,
and
I mean, you've said it. He's a Leo, right? So he showed that brashness, that So when you have that
moxie,
buy-in, that moxie, when you have that moxie, and he's like, I'm gonna lock him down. After the game, he said he's looking forward to the matchup with Kyrie. And he's looking forward to locking him down too. I love to see a star player talk about that. Because look, he had a better offensive game, 6 of 24, if I'm not mistaken, 6 of 24.
Yep.
But Cat carried him, and that defense carried him, and that's one thing I've always wanted from the teams that I like to root for is if you play defense, you have a chance in any game.
You're right.
You have a chance.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, but look, let's also Denver says far, right? 20-point lead. You're the defending champions at home, game 7. You have a 20-point lead. It's weird, right? Because I was watching the game with Giselle, my wife, for those that don't know. I was telling her they have perfect synergy. They're 5-0. They should make a comeback now that they're close, and they just couldn't turn it around. And this is just one of the situations where I think talent and perseverance just kind of won over synergy. How did you see it, Zodiac?
Exactly. But one thing to note, I mean, as I mentioned on the last episode, that the T-Wolves are more fixed dominant, right? And I did mention how the Nuggets are more mutable, flexibility, that adaptability, so they can adapt to different scenarios, whether they're down, they can adapt, etc. Right? So there's good and bad to both trait qualities, right? So the good and bad of the mutables are adaptable, which is good, but they could fall into some inconsistency as well. The Virgos, the Geminis, the Sagittarius, depending on what element it is, right? But you're looking on the other side with the T-Wolves, they're more fixed dominant from head coach. You got a Scorpio, which is a fixed sign. That's Finch, right? The culture setter, etc., right? You got Towns, also a Scorpio, and Edwards, a Leo. All 3 that I mentioned are all fixed signs. So yes, they are predictable, right? They're more constant and stable in their energies. But a great thing about it is that they do tend to get the job done. So if you look at any fixed signs that's out there, whether it's a Taurus, a Scorpio, an Aquarius, those are the type of energies that will get the job done. Like, plain and simple, no matter what it is, they complete it. So that's what you get. That's the type of sort of like they're a part of their DNA makeup. And they did it. They made it happen.
What's the synergy of the starting lineup? Was it and then also whenever Nas Reed comes in, do they go like a 4-1-3-2?
So the way it is,
5-0.
The way it is, they're more neutral, right? So it's not the best. Obviously, with the Denver's, all 5 of their starters are very compatible. But I think the one thing, because I've been analyzing the T-Wolves, it's just the way the rotation it's done throughout the games, is that the energies that come in, in substitution, and also with the position that they substitute with, that's most common, benefits them a lot. So they have good positional rotation synergy, right? They don't have the best starting synergy, but they have enough to complement, because if you look at the way they're also their scheme on the offensive end, Edwards is their go-to guy. They have Towns, who also does this portion, but they're heavily dominant on defense. I mean, that's kind of like their makeup defense, right? But they have a lot of Virgos that come off the bench. Nas Reed is a Virgo. Kyle Anderson is a Virgo. Alexander Walker is also a Virgo. And, all those energies I mentioned are very compatible to the head coach. And if you're the head coach, that's a big plus, because you would like you'd like your, the players that you're coaching to be on the same level just of understanding of what's needed. And the neat thing about Virgos is that they are people pleasers, right? So they're perfectionists. So they want to be the perfect host. They want to be the perfect teammate. They want to be the perfect player. Anything of that realm, that's sort of the energy that they provide. So that's a big plus for a coach of, Chris Finch being a Scorpio. That's a big plus for him to have, rather than butting heads if it was an energy that's opposite of him, say, so that's just a one thing that stood out. So ideally on the starting five level, but you got to look at they are talented. 2 number one picks,
Right.
and you have to consider that they are talented, but the synergy still goes to the Nuggets. But of course, the talent, Gobert, you can make an argument, probably the best, obviously defensive player of the year, right? And then Karl Towns and Anthony Edwards, both number 1 overall draft picks. I mean, and great players by McDaniels. Don't forget him.
Don't forget him.
Conley,
hey, Anthony Edwards kept calling him out, shouting his name out after posing him. He said, "Jaden McDaniels is the player of the game."
Check it out. Who's a Leo, which is Edwards, right? His most compatible energies on that squad are both Libras, Mike Conley and McDaniels. Those are essential. And notice when Mike Conley got, I believe it was 1 or 2 games he was injured, right, in this series. They lost, right? And you could just tell they weren't flowing. I mean, in other words, what I'm trying to say is Edward feeds off of Mike Conley's energy. It's a big deal, especially for a point guard to run a team, and you have Edwards right there off of the wing. It's very important to have that synergy with your backcourt mate, right? Now, a couple of years ago, he did have a D'Angelo Russell, who's a Pisces, which is opposite energy of him, which it didn't work out too well, but they were still good enough. But I think the key was actually Mike Conley acquisition and putting him into the scheme of things.
Speaking of acquisitions, as we put a bow on this one, Mike Conley Jr., right? He's a solid veteran, solid player, and I think his pickup, along with joining the Minnesota Timberwolves, was big. And the man that made that deal was Tim Connolly. Tim Connolly is the general manager of the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was previously the general manager and president of operations. We got them both; those titles mean the same thing, right? Essentially, the man that pulls the strings behind the scenes. He was with the Denver Nuggets. Tim Connolly, and he essentially built the Timberwolves to beat the Nuggets, right? So, we're gonna focus on Denver right now. They have like you said, perfect starting lineup in 5-0, but I think they were missing some more players that were valuable that could give them something off the bench. They lost Bruce Bowen in the offseason, and they didn't want to pay him. And people forget how instrumental he was in some of these rough moments. Because and I'm not even sure what sign Bruce Bowen was. Do you know it?
Bruce Brown. He's a Leo. So
he's a Leo. There's a fake sign. So he was that one that when he came off the bench. Yeah, you could count him. And when he came off the bench, it gave that team a different look, because he was also more of a he would take the charge a bit, when like the super sub, and I feel so. So what do you feel? What kind of sign do you feel that they need a fake sign like what Bruce Bowen was, that they need to sign that in the off season? So yeah.
Well, in synergy, it's a very complicated thing as far as for analyzing a team as a whole. So there's so many levels and aspects of synergy, right? So the thing with it is, they do have a 5-0 lineup, right? Yes, that's understood. But the thing is, I like to look at the head coach. What's his sign? So he's a Virgo with the Leo moon, right? So if you have a Leo moon, you connect very well with someone that has a Leo sun, because they're exactly the same. It's like you're completing. It's like that connection completes that individual in this case, which is Mike Malone. So with him, his connection with Bruce Brown was very, very, very strong, because Bruce Brown is a Leo, right? And again, Mike Malone is a Leo moon with the Virgo sun. So they connected on that level, which helps him a lot because, he can count on Bruce Brown. But another player that I like to look at was Jeff Green. Remember Jeff Green? He's a Virgo.
Yes,
He's a
you're
Virgo.
right. You're right.
He was very, very instrumental on that championship run that they had. So,
Yeah.
that's also another key piece. So in a sense, the balance, the way the rotation is for Denver, it actually got weaker with their full rotational flow. Strong starting five, but their bench, wasn't as strong to keep them in synergy, to keep them going throughout the game. So, as a whole, like to complete. Reggie Jackson's an Aries, which is, which is good. Then they also have Christian Brown. He's also an Aries. But those are your go-to guys. I mean, you throw into a mix of all of these energies of Virgos and it kind of throws it off just a little bit, but they're still strong enough because they play a majority of the minutes of starting five. But another neat thing that, this is another thing I look at, but I don't really mention it a lot because I try not to want to confuse people even more that kind of don't understand it. But the thing with the T-Wolves, they have a strong synergy in their moon signs. They kind of remind me of the way the Golden State Warriors are. Right. So this is only in the moon sign level. You have Mike Conley's a Gemini, right? So this is your emotional reaction and things. So you have a Gemini in Mike Conley. You have an Aquarius in Edwards, a Libra.
Wait. Are you talking about
A moon signs. This is moon signs only.
Oh, we're talking about the Wolves, right?
Yes, for the Wolves. And then,
okay.
So 4 out of the starting 5 are very, very compatible.
Okay, but
so
you think that's why that pushed the Wolves over the Nuggets?
Yeah, because that's also another level, but that's because that's more your emotional reaction to things, right? So I do include that in my analysis, but not heavily, and I don't like to bring it up because of I don't want to confuse people more, right? But they do have that, and another team that was like that had very strong connection on their moon level was the dynasty that the Golden State Warriors had ran. I mean, they were look at the big three with Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson was an Aquarius with the Leo moon. Keep in mind, I'm going to mention the moon, right? Steph Curry, who's a Pisces with an Aquarius moon, and then Draymond Green was also a Pisces with a Gemini moon. So that synergy was strong alone, and then they had a head coach to lead the way. But overall, this series was it did surprise me that that the Wolves ended up taking from the Nuggets, and Nuggets had it. They had a 20 point lead. Again, you got to give it up to the T-Wolves. They handed it to them.
On the road.
Another team, too, yes.
Another team that went on the road was the first Game 7 we had, because the Wolves Nuggets were actually the second Game 7 of the day. The first one was the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers. They renewed the rivalry finally again. We all remember them games from the 90s and the early 2000s. So this series was an interesting one in that the Knicks hung around so badly despite all the injuries that picked up Knicks and ticks here and there. And, they were already playing without Julius Randle. And I think Game 7 just proved to be too much. It wouldn't have surprised me had they won, right? Just because they had already pushed through so much. But I think Brunson getting hurt and with his hand or his wrist, I think in Game 7, that was really just out of the picture. That was really just that was pretty much like the final nail in the coffin. But Indiana Pacers, they pulled it out. Tyrese Halliburton, flashbacks of Reggie Miller at Madison Square Garden, and after the game, he wore a sweater with Reggie Miller with the choke sign. Because look, Knicks were up 2-0 in this series, right? Let's not forget. The Wolves were also up 2-0, and they've got the job finished on the road. Knicks, unfortunately, we're at home. First Game 7, I think, in 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but yeah. So it's. I know the synergy the Knicks had was strong, and I know that's why that was pushing them forward, even through some of these injuries that they have. But I think it just got to be too much, and I think that's one of the concerns with the Tim Thibodeau coach team. And I love Tim Thibodeau, defense first, but I think that's one of the issues that can happen with his teams at times. They play too many heavy minutes, rely on too much. And by the time he has to go down the bench, those players don't have as much experience. And I think the Knicks, I think they'll be back next season. But I think with this game, the Pacers, they just came out and took care of business straight up. From the get go. From the get go, it wasn't like the Wolves. The Wolves had to wake up at halftime, right? But Pacers came out. They did a thing from the get go. But how did these injuries play a role, and how did that change the synergy, especially after Brunson went out? Like, how did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it was a major health thing. There were a lot of injuries, but again, Indiana, you got to give it to them. I mean, Indiana ran a strong offense. Okay, their strength and synergy is really from their head coach to the point guard, right? Their head coach, Rick Carlisle, he's a Scorpio. What's up with all these Scorpios?
Scorpio coaches, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know
that tells you something, right? So,
okay.
And then, throughout the season, and when they had the success, with everything they were running a really strong offense, even number one at some point, right? And even in the offense, they're running a strong offense as well. And that means a lot when you have your point guard, because your point guard has the ball majority of the time, right? And Halliburton's a Pisces, so Scorpio Pisces is a strong connection. But guess 2021, 2022, or back when Carlisle was coaching the Mavs, same thing. The Mavs ran a really strong offense that season also. And then, of course, Scorpio, and guess what? Doncic is also a Pisces. So that tells you something, right? But the thing with Halliburton, his synergy is not the best fit as a whole, because there's the majority of the other signs are opposite of him. That's the reason why I was looking at TJ McConnell as a key piece to kind of complete that, to kind of maintain their synergy, to kind of like, so something that you lack in synergy with Halliburton being in there, but he is your star player, makes up for when TJ McConnell comes in and gives them that boost. And you can just get a sense of the team overall synergy clicking when TJ McConnell's there, right? You just get, when I watch the games, I'm like, yeah, it's clicking, because he gets it going. There's a lot of fire signs in there, fire energies. I mean, they like to go. I mean, Siakam's an Aries, right? So that they kind of bring that type of energy. Whereas Halliburton's a Pisces, they tend to kind of go with the feel of the game. That's what makes them great players as well. They're mutable sign. They adjust on the go. So they had a good balance, and the talent is obviously there.
What's interesting? How you just describe how TJ comes in and how his energy with Pascal just like changes how the team plays. It's almost like when he comes in, it's a different Pacers offense than when Tyrese Halliburton is in there,
Bingo.
Right?
Yes,
and I think that's what maybe for defending teams, you can kind of like, okay, change your pace, because like you said, TJ's go, and I mean we've seen that. Since when he gets in the game, he had like a 5-point swing where he got like he assisted and then he stole the ball, and then they had an and one. So like he just makes things happen. And it's funny you mentioned, because I did notice that when him and Pascal play, it is more like a little bit more faster,
exactly.
Because they already play at a higher pace, but it just feels different. It's like a different faster, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. And he fits their rotational, synergy a lot better than Halliburton. Of course, Halliburton's still going to put up his numbers, right? I mean, he's a very talented player. But all I'm saying is that with the rest of his starting unit that plays majority of the game, he's not the best synergy fit. But of course, he's still going to get his numbers. He's still going to do well. But as you can tell, you put in an energy that is compatible to the rest of the group, you can just get a sense of synergies. Hey, it's gotten a lot better. And that's where I feel like their strength was. They maintain that synergy that lacks from their starting unit. And that's a big advantage for them. You look at the Knicks side, their synergy's always been there. It seems like the more injuries that happen, the stronger their synergy gets. I noticed that. I'm like, wow, but hey, when injuries happen, and you do lose a little bit of talent as well. You do lose a little bit of energy and health, and it caught up to them.
Yeah, it definitely did, and that's where we're gonna finish with the Knicks, and they had a great season, a lot to look forward to. But I like Jalen Brunson's attitude. They asked him if he can, why he isn't considered. If I'm not sure the question, but it was about whether this season is a success for the Knicks, pretty much around there. And Jalen Brunson flat out told him, no, it's not. And the reporter kind of pressed, and he's like, why? And he's like, did we win the title? Did we advance more? So, go ahead.
And you know what? I hate to say this, because the Knicks, man, if out of all these years that I've been watching them and I've been keeping an eye on their synergy all these years. It's always been that mediocre team, and I've always been pinpointing at Barrett and was it
Yeah.
Quickly, and then also Randall. I was like, man, it doesn't fit with Brunson. I've always looked at that as as a mediocre team. They finally did something to break out of that mediocre level,
Yeah.
right? Once they did, it's just I feel so bad because it's like they had it. They had the team. This was the team. This
It
with
was.
even barring all the injuries, but like as I mentioned, all the injuries so happen to be energies that actually got them better overall in synergy. But this was the team to do it. It really was. Like out of all these years, I've seen the fans and New York is kind of like disappointed, disgruntled with the teams that they've had and the failures that they had. But this season was different. It really was different, because the
Yeah.
synergy was as strong and as good as it gets. Like top 8 was like strong, and I don't know. I just feel bad that it had to happen this way. But again, give it up to the Pacers. They did what they had to do, and hey, they can even win it all. Who knows? Because right now it's a toss up, right? But yeah, you still got to give it up to the Pacers and making sure they did what they had to do. T-Wolves, they did what they had to do, and yeah, let's move forward and see who goes in the finals.
Let's see who goes into the finals. And real quick, we could have also made this episode about a preview about the conference finals, but we wanted to recap what happened. Before we get into finish this episode, we got to give predictions, right? So we got Pacers and the Celtics, right? We're gonna stay in the Eastern Conference. Pacers and Celtics. Just real quick, who has a better synergy? Just tell us the team who has a better synergy.
Synergy as a whole, when healthy, everyone's healthy. Because now you got to consider that, of course. Celtics, obviously, I feel like their talent and synergy is better.
Okay.
The way their team is constructed.
And it's funny you say that when healthy now, because the big piece of that is Kristaps Porzingis right now. This length might have helped the Boston Celtics, but you know what? My prediction for this one, I think it's going to go 7. I think it's going to be closer than most people expect. People forget that Tyrese Halliburton, he showed out against Boston in the playing tournament. Granted, that was in December, right? But still, I think this is going to be a closer series than people expect. It might go 7. It would not surprise me if Indiana wins, and I'm going to pick Indiana in 7 games. I think they're going to have just a little bit more. I think the Boston Celtics, sometimes they get stagnant on offense, and just at times. Especially down the stretch sometimes. And they have the talent to fix that, right? Either Tatum or Brown could go one-on-one, but I think this Pacers team has a little extra in it. So I think Pacers in 7 for this one. What do you say?
And Pisces versus Pisces, Halliburton versus Tatum. I mean, that's another interesting thing I kind of looked at. But yeah, I'll give it to Boston. Boston in 6. I think overall, I think eventually they'll grind it out. I mean, Pacers going to put up a really good fight. I think in order for Pacers to win, they still have to do that maintaining and synergy piece that I mentioned. I feel like again, TJ McConnell is very, very important to this whole team. He's a crucial piece of this whole team. And when healthy, they have a strong shot of making it happen. But hey, who knows? Maybe a little bit of luck could help too. Game winner here and there or whatever it is. But yeah, I still see the Boston Celtics pull it off. But who knows?
Who knows? What we do know is in the Western Conference, it'll be the Timberwolves against the Mavericks. And for that one, since I said that the T-Wolves were going to be Denver's toughest match on their way to the finals, which obviously now that didn't happen, I'm riding with the T-Wolves all the way to the finals. Wow. I think the Timberwolves, I think that defense is going to be really suffocating for the Mavs. I do think Luka's going to get his. Luka is going to get his. He's Luka. He's crafty. I think Kyrie's going to get his in a game here or two. Wouldn't surprise me if Kyrie gets him a win with a big performance. But I think it's going to be T-Wolves in 7, I think. I think it's going to be a couple of grind-out games, maybe a blowout here or two. But I think the T-Wolves defense, and I think Anthony Edwards, there's something in this, with him and Chris Finch. And there's something in this team right now, this franchise, what they have together, this unity. And I'm telling you, when a team is playing this this good team defense, I think it can take you places. And I know Rudy Gobert got a lot of hate, got a lot of on him in this finals because Jokic was cooking him, but Jokic has been cooking everybody for the past 4 seasons. So there's no shame in that, But he's key to what they do. He's very key to what they do. He's one of the reasons why they're a top defensive team. He allows the guards to play up on players because if they get by him, Gobert is right there to swat your away, So, but no, I think it's gonna be T-Wolves from 7. I think it's gonna be a fun series, though. I think it's gonna be a fun series. I think Ant's gonna. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some Ant on Luka. That'll be fun. So we'll see. But I'm saying T-Wolves from 7.
Oh, this one, it's so even. It's scary. Like they're so identical. That's the way I see it. Yeah, I mean, Minnesota does have the credentials with being a top defense, but hey, Dallas does too. I mean, they have the big men to do it. They have the talent to do it. Oh man, this is tough. This is probably the toughest series. Oh man. 7. I say that it's going to go to game 7, and I do see Mavs pulling it off. I think Mavs. Okay. See the way I see Mavs, it's like a all or nothing type of team. That's the way I see it. Like they're very streaky. They are very streaky. It's like, as I mentioned before the playoffs, they're going to be the type of team that's going to do really really bad or really really good. And I feel like right now they're doing really really good, and I think they have enough to maintain that. To finish the T-Wolves. But yeah, I'm very, very curious to see, But again, I love Anthony Edwards, man. He's making the whole NBA exciting again. Like just his energy is just something else. Hey, Kyrie versus Edwards. Hey, that's one to look out for, man.
So there we go, faithful listeners and new listeners and all kinds of listeners. We are split on our choices. I'm for a Wolves Pacers final, and Zodiac wants a Mavs Celtics final. And it's weird. I chose smaller market teams, and you chose the bigger market teams. So I'm all for smaller market teams. Let's go. But with that, Zodiac, any final words on this episode?
Follow us on Hoopstrology and also the Zodiac GM on Twitter X.
And follow the Bayou-Citian at the Bayou-Citian, and follow me, Jesus_Acevedo Jr. Thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to subscribe. See ya.